Darren Till took on Derrick Brunson in what was, brought up to be a pretty critical match at middleweight. And my, hasn't middleweight had a lot of jockeying for position as we wait for the champ Israel Adesanya to take on Robert the Reaper Whittaker in Australia, and I believe that fight is next year. Guys, before we begin this reaction video and recap, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. Before we begin to this reaction, let us take back on a journey to Derrick Brunson and the reclamation project that was Derrick Brunson after his fight against Israel Adesanya. And when we think about that fight and when we think about the evolution, the rebuild, Derrick Brunson 2.0, it really is remarkable what a pillar of consistency Derrick Brunson has been. And the thing about Brunson is he's been there with the best. Jacare Souza, Lyoto Machida, Anderson Silva, Whittaker, Hall. I mean, he's fought everyone in this division. And, when you think of all the flashy fighters that are in the middleweight division, Derrick Brunson is not flashy. No, that is not what I would call Derrick Brunson. But my, hasn't he been a pillar of consistency? So let's rattle off the names, because the loss against Israel Adesanya was Israel Adesanya's come up. It was dramatic. I mean, I recall the celebration, that dance that Israel had. Derrick Brunson has since then rattled off 5 wins, including Darren Till, which we're going to talk about, Elias Thidrow, Ian Heinisch, Edmund Shibazi, Kevin Holland, and now Darren Till, which firmly puts him on the cusp, if not, in my opinion, knocking on the door for a fight two rather, against Israel style bender Adesanya. When we look at the tail of the tape against Darren Till, let's look at the last 5 fights. A win against Steven Wonderboy Thompson, a loss against Woodley, a loss against Masvidal, win against Gastelum, loss against Whittaker, now against Brunson. Let's talk about this fight, guys. I think let's talk about the elephant in the room, and it really was the wrestling that was the difference here. And I think, as in any combat competition, there's really levels to this game, and Derrick Brunson showed that while his striking is maybe not necessarily at the level of, Darren Till, and I'm sure that if you talk to Derrick Brunson, he's going to say otherwise, but let's assume that assumption holds. His wrestling is miles ahead of Darren Till. And I think, interestingly enough, you have these really seasoned strikers in Darren Till, which, when I look at this, his fight basically schedule and the opponents that he's fought, he hasn't really fought a wrestler, and it's just compounding and actually quite quizzical that in the amount of fights that Darren Till has had, he hasn't necessarily fought a wrestler of the caliber of Derrick Brunson. And surprise, surprise, it absolutely showed. Derrick Brunson was able to get Darren Till down with relative ease. And I think there are a couple of different ways, because Derrick Brunson's takedowns are not explosive. Explosive in the regards of, a double, explosion there. He really relies on his striking to close the gap in distance and threat of the strike to really take down Darren Till. And, for all the dynamism that's involved in those explosions, to get the connections required to take an individual down, which are extremely effective. Explosive is what you necessarily wouldn't call it. It's hyper effective. And in the first round, you could see as soon as he got Darren Till down, he was able to maintain ground control for serious periods of time. And not only that, build inertia into his striking. And you could just visibly see a shaken and exhausted Darren Till, because there's no doubt, again, looking at this Marauders map, really high quality fighters that Till has fought on his way to where he's been, being held down against his will for long periods of time is definitely, I'm not too sure if he trains that position extensively. There is no doubt that, a fighter of his caliber has absolutely been in positions like that. But it really did seem that not only could, Brunson take Till down easily, but what was really missing, and I think that this is the next level, apart from the fact that, striking in all elements of mixed martial arts improve. There wasn't a lot of conscious awareness of, potentially an offensive guard, things to do to create distance with the hips, with the knees, with the thighs to threaten Derrick Brunson at all. And it's not to say that this stuff would be effective at all once, Brunson got on top, which he did, and he got there really often. But it is to say that, it allows you and gives you an opportunity within the fight, which really for the majority of the 3 rounds, as soon as Brunson was able to establish a takedown and take Till down, he basically had very little within the toolbox. It could be a cardio and exhaustion element because, as noted, after the first round, you could tell visibly that, Till wasn't necessarily 100%. And how would you be if you have Derrick Brunson up top of you raining strikes? And he does it really well. I think the other thing is, for individuals that have, fought a lot of sort of seasoned strikers, if you know that if you get taken down, it's going to be a tough night at the office, you would think that, there would be a lot of emphasis within the clinch and within elements there when distance is being closed by the wrestler to really avoid at all costs those connections and also, the takedown. And again, not to say that Darren Till wasn't trying this, but it really did seem that there was either a lack of explosion there or lack of fundamental understanding, or heck, let's give it to Brunson. Maybe Brunson is just that amazing that when he, connects the hands, takes the butt down, twists the individual and takes him to the ground, it is an explosive movement. But as far as, the Brunson that we've seen in the last couple of fights, this is the most assured, the most explosive, the most composed Brunson that we've seen. And he got rocked. On the 3rd round, even in the 1st round, the hand speed advantage was there for Darren Till, but able to maintain his composure, able to stick to a game plan, able to close the distance effectively without, taking too much strikes. And when he was down there, was methodical, got the takedown again in the 3rd round, finished with a rear naked choke. And honestly, not to say that, Darren Till didn't give a lot of resistance, but by then he was really exhausted and it was all over Red Rover. And where does Brunson go from here? Well, there's 2 fights. One is the easy fight. I think, when you see him being interviewed by a lot of commentators, he wants that. And it's interesting because Israel Adesanya, as exhibited by his last couple of fights, is an absolute handful to take down, and I don't think he'll be that easy. But Brunson has, utilized this style to various degrees of effect in this, last 5 fights. And so it would be really interesting to see what a prepared camp against the champ would do. In the striking, Brunson gets lit up. It is what it is. As for Darren Till, this is an interesting one. He's got youth on his side, no doubt. But personal opinion says that he needs to mix things up in his camp. He needs to get a semblance of a ground game. It's interesting, though. The best fighters in that division are predominantly sort of strikers. So does he need to? Don't know. But there is something missing there that, I saw Michael Bisping get interviewed, and he's got youth in his side. So all of these can come together at a certain point in time. But he needs to take a hard look in the mirror and see what he needs to do to get there. And it will require recalibration, maybe of the likes that Derrick Brunson has shown. So that's my reaction video, guys. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe. What do you think? Were you impressed by this performance by Derrick Brunson? And where do we go for in terms of Darren Till? Hope to have you guys on the channel soon again.